Greetings, friends. Welcome to July 8th,
Hello.
2024. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mondays at Microsoft, where we break down the next 2 weeks at Microsoft in the Microsoft world for you, with a special focus on all of our fun collaboration and modern work products, AI, and Power Platform. I'm Karuana Gatimu. I'm the Principal Manager of the Microsoft 365 Customer Advocacy Group, and this is my good friend.
Hello, I'm Heather Cook, everybody, Principal PM on the MCAG team as well, the Customer Advocacy Group for Microsoft 365. Good morning, Karuana. Yay.
Good morning. We were just discussing how we're trying to get back in the swing after a few days off. It was just a holiday in the United States, and the holiday fell on a Thursday, so Microsoft kindly gives us Friday off, which we appreciate, which I would take anyway, just because. So we're trying to get back in the swing of our summertime. Quick reminder, if you're watching on LinkedIn, you'll get the links as we discuss on the topics, and on YouTube, we put them in the segment description in our blog post after the fact. There's another call we want to make sure that you get. If you want live closed captioning, make sure to watch us on LinkedIn, because that is where that function happens. So it's always fun over there on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff. I mean, even though it's summer, I don't think the product development and research scientists at Microsoft know that because so many things are continuing to happen. And the summertime brings us some reading material that you're really going to want to check out. These are 2 articles by Susanna Ray, and we want you to add them to your list as we continue our learning together about AI, especially if you're bringing AI into your business or to your clients. Last month, Susanna posted up to 10 more AI terms you should know after her first post back there in November of 2023. And the language is important. It's important to understand the terms of the day. And if you're doing this as a career, it's important that you have the current technology language as you go through it. And both articles do a great job of explaining the basics and new concepts that are now becoming, household vernacular. I'm not sure if it's household vernacular, but I know it's conference room vernacular for sure. And soon it probably will be household vernacular. My top 2, and I love that that Heather went through all of these and picked them out for us because these are excellent. Orchestration. This is an important concept because AI programs have so much on their plate and people's requests. The orchestration layer is what steers them through all their tasks in the right order to get the best response. So orchestration is super important. If you ask Microsoft Copilot who Ada Lovelace is, for example, and then ask when she was born, the AI's orchestrator is what stores the chat history to see that she, in your following query, refers to Lovelace. So that orchestration, for those of you who ever did any business process engineering, as I used to do on a pretty regular basis, the order of things matter. So that orchestration layer remains super important, right? And the orchestration layer can also follow a RAG pattern by searching the internet for fresh information to add into the context and help the model come up with a better answer. You always want that fresh answer and the most relevant information right at your fingertips. That's part of the promise of AI in the first place. So we love that. We also love what's called frontier models, right? Frontier models are large-scale systems that push the boundaries of AR and can perform a wide variety of tasks with new, broader capabilities. They can be so advanced that they sometimes surprise us with what they're able to accomplish, right? Tech companies, including Microsoft, formed a frontier model forum to share knowledge, set safety standards, and to help everyone understand these powerful AI programs and ensure that we're doing safe and responsible development, which, of course, is at the base of everything that we do in AI. So there's more terms you should know. Make sure to check out her article. I love when I get to really dig in and understand these things. So that's super important. Oh, AI, it just keeps, I'm still amazed, Heather, that we're sitting around talking about AI. Did you have any other favorites from her list?
Yeah. I think, what was cool is to go back and look at what she originally wrote, and so it's like large language models and like just all the words that we were like, what? And so, now there's now there's small language model, so and it's
Right.
encompassing a lot of the things, the phi three, the things that we've been talking about. And so it's a really nice compilation of kind of all the stuff that you and I are picking out of different scripts. So I definitely compare the two, check out both articles for sure. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, AI is not the only thing that's going through big changes. There are big moves in quantum computing as well. And I
Yeah.
know for some of you, this may again feel a little far off, but remember, we thought AI was far off not that
Yeah.
long ago. So it's important to at least keep quantum computing in your peripheral vision because I personally am convinced that this is going to be yet another huge and transformational turning point as people continue to develop in this area. And at Microsoft, our vision is to empower scientists with the latest breakthroughs in AI to unlock their full creative potential and also to tackle some of the most pressing challenges where you really need this kind of capability. And this vision requires to bring AI together with quantum classical hybrid computing to augment every stage of the scientific method, right? So whether we're expanding knowledge research or creating better hypotheses or accelerating experimentation and analysis, doing so demands a purpose-built cloud platform for science, right? I mean, this is the big stuff. This is the curing
Mhm.
cancer, addressing climate change, doing so many of these things that, before these kinds of calculations would have taken literally hundreds of years on
Yeah.
traditional computing platforms. So this is why we built Azure Quantum Elements for chemistry and materials science. And at the end of June, we announced generative chemistry and accelerated DFT, which will expand the ways researchers can harness the full power of this platform. These breakthrough capabilities will empower scientists to compress the next 250 years of chemistry into the next 25. Okay, let's do it together. Right. Okay. Yeah. Where's the graphic for that production team? I think we need that mind blown graphic that we put up because that's a really, really big deal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge.
So we're broadening the horizons of that scientific exploration, of course, in a safe and compliant manner. And researchers can generate and explore novel molecules suited for specific industry applications using the latest AI models trained on hundreds of millions of compounds. And then they can evaluate the steps suggested by the workflow for synthesizing the most promising candidates in a lab more efficiently, which of course reduces the cost of discovery, by the way, which is an important component in research, right? One of the reasons new drugs cost so much is the amount of money it takes to research new capabilities. So getting better information before you go into the lab is just fantastic. And so this can
Yeah.
then take a matter of days rather than years. And I read something also, Heather, about this. Where they were using this kind of capability to begin to think about how to design a bioorganic element that would enable us to
Mhm.
address the plastics that are in the oceans because the
Yeah. Yeah.
plastics are such a hard issue to deal with. You
Right.
can't just scoop them up; they're too tiny.
Yeah.
So we have to address this in more advanced ways. So I'm all
Yeah.
for cleaning the oceans. I'm an ocean person.
Absolutely. I love the words discovery and exploration in here because it is really truly a new frontier. And this kind of technology also allows for the exploration into disease and other things that maybe don't get as much funding, or researchers tend to go where they're going to get the money to get the funding, right? And
That's
so
right.
that's where the skills tip on what actually gets researched. And so I'm excited about these things because maybe the expansion into more women's health issues, frankly.
Yes.
And,
Oh, I was just thinking that. Oh,
more like, hey, maybe we should, study menopause a little bit more, or other things that are important that only get 11% of the funding that are out in the world, to throw a good number at you on that one. But, right. So like, it's exciting. So this is that getting us to be able to be faster, that
yeah.
AI is going to bring us in all these
And
models.
not only women's health issues, but rare diseases. There's a
Exactly.
lot of rare
Yep.
diseases that have a tremendous impact on people's lives.
Yes.
But because they're rare, even I was just learning about another one the other day,
Yeah.
another autoimmune syndrome that
Wow.
causes the
Mhm.
spine to fuse and limits walking. But it's incredibly rare. And so there's just not the research on it that
Yep.
there are many other autoimmune disorders. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, anything that can help people find answers faster so we can improve people's lives is what I
Yeah.
love this tech for. So
Yeah.
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
now
Yeah,
we're
and
going to turn to more
leaning
stuff that's important.
yeah, yeah. Leaning into, I think, I would maybe even call it a hot, spicy topic, but looking at combating AI deepfakes and Microsoft's participation in the 2024 political conventions. Ginny Badanes, I'm hoping I'm saying her name correctly. I've not met her yet, but she's the GM for Democracy Forward at Microsoft. And so around the world. We spoke about this a couple of months ago that we have a project where we're working with political parties, candidates, campaign projects to keep deepfakes out of elections. And so this took us to Taiwan in February, India in March, across the EU for things here in May. United Kingdom and France, as we know, just finished their elections, and we have ours coming up. So it's why Microsoft's really being present at both of our U.S. national political conventions coming up to provide technical training for candidates and all the campaigns. Microsoft doesn't endorse candidates or political parties, but we ground the policy discussions on combating, these deep fakes, promoting education and learning. And ahead of the convention, there's a public awareness campaign encouraging people to be vigilant, about the risk of deep fake manipulation. It's called Check, Recheck, and Vote. And the power of the people, the power of us as individuals is about voting and being registered to vote. And I love it that we as a company are looking at this in a cybersecurity way, overall security, encouraging everybody to check your sources, check your points, make sure you have really good resources, and protecting yourselves from that kind of deception. There's a lot of it out there, and in social media especially. So there's 5 tenets: voters having a right to transparent and authoritative information regarding your elections, our elections, candidates being able to assert content origination from their campaign and when their likenesses may be distorted by AI. Political campaigns in general protecting themselves from cyber threats and being able to really navigate those things with a guide like Microsoft, and then authorities being able to ensure a resilient and secure process. So lots of tools and services enabling that out there, that we're putting into the world and have with other elections and coming up with ours. So really, that's something super important to me personally, and I really am happy that we as a company are leaning in there. There was another article I didn't put in that was all about helping with the Olympics as well.
Mhm.
That the Olympics typically gets targeted for all kinds of activity of just scaring people, basically fear about things that could happen at the Olympics with all of this stuff. And Microsoft has been doing a lot of work with the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, about that as well. So very cool stuff that we're doing that's important, hugely important, as we want, fair and democratic elections. So, yeah.
Right. And that's not just here, of course, it's all around the world. And, that's one of the benefits, but also really being humbled by, the power of working at a place like Microsoft, where we can have
Mhm.
a positive impact on these things all around the world and safeguard people's ability to be heard, right?
Mhm.
To be heard in a free and fair way. And so,
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm always reminding people when they want to show me something from the internet, did you check that? Do you know for
Yeah.
sure that it's real?
Yes.
Because unfortunately, there's lots of folks who are using this technology to manipulate the average person. So I'm really glad to hear that. And so while we're doing that work, we're also talking about the issue of cybersecurity. Microsoft has been working to strengthen cybersecurity protection. And on Thursday, June 13th, Microsoft Vice Chair and President Brad Smith testified before the House Homeland Security Committee on Microsoft cybersecurity practices. And you can actually view that hearing on C-SPAN. Brad acknowledged the unique role that Microsoft plays in safeguarding America's cybersecurity in particular.
Mhm.
And we definitely accept responsibility for the issues that were cited in the CSRB's report. And for those of us who work in Microsoft, we're familiar with our Secure Future initiative. And we are committed as our number one priority to resolving and to lead by example with regard to those issues that were uncovered. And so, I think what's important about this is no one is perfect, but it's what's most important is that we accept responsibility
Mhm.
for the position that we have as a company and for the work that needs to be done. I'm personally very happy about the focus that every senior leader I have heard in the last period of time has placed on this. And they've been crystal clear with us as employees that there is nothing more important than the security and the Secure Future initiative that we're working on. So there's a lot to accomplish in 2024. Starting at home, starting with Microsoft itself. But even more than this, it's one of the most important lessons from the past 2 years. And the two successful Chinese and Russian attacks, that everything we do this year, no matter how successful, will not be sufficient for the dangers we'll face a year or two from now. So the cyber domain is becoming more lawless and dangerous and hostile, and we need to plan and adapt accordingly. And that extends to all of us in this business, to every company. And being able to partner with someone like Microsoft, who's obviously been through and has this sort of experience. These attacks would have been more successful had it not been for the work that our teams do, but it also exposed some issues. So it's a good thing to be mindful of, and I just appreciated his forthrightness about the issues that we face as a company.
Yeah, and a lot of that's direct from his testimony, which is,
Yeah,
I really appreciated it as well. And from this global macro level that we're talking about, right? And then honestly, like literally two-factor authentication, everybody, look at the from. I literally almost had a phishing attempt that almost got a large sum of money from someone in my very personal
yeah,
space, where they just didn't look at the email address in the from.
that's right.
And it's so easy to be going fast and to also want to do your job. Somebody told me to pay this invoice. Somebody told me to do this thing, right? And you go and you're doing it, and then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And
Yeah,
so just really it is that huge macro level that we're talking about, and it's super personal too. And
yeah,
it's personal for your family. These phone calls that people get, the phishing attempts and email that are going to your parents, all that stuff. Talk about these things with them. Really,
yeah,
truly talk about it, because if something seems weird, it probably is. And if you don't say it to somebody, it's like that movie where you're like, that was weird. And then all of a sudden, what happens to that person, right? Because they didn't
right.
tell anybody. So like, if you see something weird, talk about it. Talk about it with your family. Talk about it with your friends and your colleagues and stuff. And say, I got this thing. Did you get it too? Right?
Right.
Those attacks sometimes will come in at all levels for all people in different ways too.
It
So
is so true. I had a good friend of mine who was scammed by one of those. And for those people who aren't as close to the business as us, she just didn't think about these sorts
yeah,
of things. It didn't seem odd to her, and it
yeah,
probably should have. And a bunch of money later,
mhm,
unfortunately there's nothing that can be done about it also, right? And
yeah,
that's one of the
it's hard.
insidious problems with this, is the global nature of the scam farms that are set up in a variety of locations. And so,
Mhm,
at any rate, back to us, we take responsibility
yeah,
for what we have to fix at home in our own, in our own house. And I do appreciate that. So, yeah, it all starts with us, and we'll get that work done for sure. And now, something else here. Look at this, Heather. What do you have here? From bioscience to skincare, startups are harnessing AI to solve problems big and small. Oh my goodness.
yeah. This is a beautiful article, and it's got I don't know, like 8 different stories in it with like a gazillion links. So I like it. This I put on my summer reading list. I read through most of it, but I was like, but I wanted to have us bring up some of these because they're really cool. Sort of some of the things that we were talking about earlier. I think you were reading and looking at the base camp research. That's pretty cool. And with you, I know you are a nature person and love being out in the, in the forest and everything. So this one was, I thought, super close to your heart for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, Basecamp Research is partnering with nature parks on 5 continents
Yeah.
and working across 27 countries to sequence genomic information from the world's most diverse and also understudied biomes, from volcanic islands. Say that 5 times fast. I need more coffee. And deep oceans to jungles in the Antarctic. Right. This is important work to do and to also feed into a model as well. With this database, Basecamp Research, they're building deep learning models that are being used to design products such as gene editing systems for therapeutics and enzymes for food manufacturing. One client's developing proteins that break down difficult to recycle plastic waste. See, I wasn't crazy. That is happening out there. And another company is designing proteins for dyeing fabrics without using harmful chemicals, right?
Yeah.
Because being more sustainable isn't just about what happens at the end of the manufacturing
Oh,
cycle,
so
it's
true.
also about what happens at the very, very beginning. So,
Mhm.
um, this is fantastic. And then Tammy McMiller joined the Founders Hub not long after launching her company, Plan Heal, in 2022, and she's based in Chicago. And
Yeah.
Plan Heal also offers AI-powered solutions that enable patients to monitor and report health metrics so care providers can better serve them. So, coming from another angle there, from a healthcare perspective,
Yeah.
that is a really exciting area in AI and in being able to transform large amounts of information into an actually better experience for the person involved. And I do think that sometimes that's what people forget is that, you know, AI is really about making people's lives better when used appropriately, and when used within the confines of some of these amazing scenarios that scientists and doctors and people like you and I can think up. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that's and this all of these stories have different aspects of AI that they're using. Some are using Azure, some are using Copilot, some are using
Right.
generative AI with creating bots and all of this kind of stuff. So and a lot of it also it just all has to do with data as well.
Oh,
Big, it's the being able to handle a lot of data, right? And research it and massage it and get all the insights out of it, which is super exciting. And I posted this, I think it was early this morning I set it up, but on my LinkedIn, I put a link to the Founders Hub and Microsoft for
yes.
Startups. So if
Yes.
you are a startup and if you have anything to do with AI whatsoever, I think just sign up anyway. But there's so many great things about being in this program. You get access to Microsoft people and then others in your same situation. There's Azure credits. There's all kinds of great things, and almost all of the folks that are in this particular article are part of that program. Yeah, there's a Hoot, H-A-U-T, I believe, .ai. They are collecting data and have created a new product called Skin GTP, which you can like upload your photos and you can look at how your skin would change over time with particular products. And so it's for beauty, but it's also for how we age and things that are potentially happening with you on a dermatological level. It's really, really cool, and it's for people who are in the beauty industry like Ulta and those kinds of brands who would have those sorts of things. But it's super cool about how it can take a look at you and see what you would look like, or if you did certain things, so that you can make choices about your personal health and all of those sorts of things. So it's really, really interesting and cool. There's another one for athletes. This is super cool. It's a sports marketing and sponsorship organization focusing on closing the gender income gap in professional sports. So it
Mm.
connects women athletes with high profile brands, including Microsoft. It's called Parity. It's so cool. It's such a neat organization. And so helping athletes track their performance data with their coaches as well. So they're logging stuff into Microsoft Excel, and then they're using Microsoft Copilot for 365 to make their lives a little easier on like looking at all the data and bringing things forward. So it's both a connection point for like getting sponsorships and more funds to women athletes, but also helping them track what they're doing in a really cool way. So just lots of great stories here and very different across different industries as well. So definitely check that article out. It's awesome.
I think
So,
that's fantastic, and, you just reminded me of one thing that I wanted to remind our audience. In any exec keynote that you've seen given recently from Microsoft, but
mhm,
especially in Satya's keynote from Microsoft Build back in May,
mhm,
he talks about the AI stack. And this is
mm,
a term that's important for you to know and understand from the underlying underpinnings of responsible AI all the way through Azure, through open AI services, through things that are integrated like Copilot into Office, all the way through our extensibility model, both low code and pro code. That stack is what is enabling these scenarios to come to life. And so
mhm,
if you're out there and this is your career, make sure you're thinking about what area of that stack is going to be your area of expertise as we move into this era of AI. Very few people, except probably Satya, can understand all of that, and Scott Goo, right? But
yeah.
at a deep level, but certainly it's up to us to pick that area of expertise to be able to go deep in it. And so, I just wanted to call that out, and just understanding the purpose of the stack and the components available from Microsoft, you can also extrapolate that knowledge into other AI suppliers out there in the world. And of course, there's more than one. And so, really understanding this at a broad level is important. So, just a little plug for the stack slide, which I look
We
at all the time.
I was like, we blinked and we're close to the end of our stuff. We got to rock through the
No.
product stuff.
I know, seriously. Well, luckily, I'm going to turn that over to you for the most part. I'm just going to remind people that
Okay.
at Build, we announced team agents, and we're going to put that link out
Yeah.
there again. I know it's a little bit of an older thing, but I wanted to bring it back here as we go through the summer. This summer is the time to understand the agent model and how it's going to work in
Mm,
Microsoft Teams. It takes a minute to wrap your head around the things that it's going to be able to do as you have a project management agent or a business manager agent involved in your project, and it's actually AI. So this is an area that I wanted to bring up again. These capabilities are just emerging now in Microsoft Teams, but they're going to continue to evolve. Of course, I'm sure we'll have some more announcements around that as we get to Microsoft Ignite in the fall. So that's why I wanted to bring that up
cool.
again. I felt like it was worthwhile, and I'll see that the rest of that time to you because you got stuff, Heather. You
Yeah,
got stuff
no,
to
it's
do
all
there.
good. Yeah, and a lot of the stuff you can read about, y'all. It's in the What's New in Power Apps June 2024 feature update. So Clay Wissner on the product team, who is so awesome, he writes these every month. Like most products have these every month too.
Yeah.
There's usually a feature update for all products that tell everything that's going on. But Canvas co-authoring finally came out into preview, available publicly worldwide, even including the sovereign clouds. Y'all, yay. So, only one editor at a time, no more. You can have 10 makers editing a Canvas app, which is super exciting. So co-authoring is always cool when it comes into our products for sure. Developer environment and plans now available in sovereign clouds. So starting with GCC and later this year in GCC and DoD. Always happy to say those things because people are like, when's my stuff? Developer plan is needed to get into developer environments. So they provide those premium capabilities like Dataverse and premium connectors actually at no additional cost. So you can go check that out too. That's available now on the links that we're putting out. There's a bunch of customer stories from Cineplex, Leroy Foods, Peppermint Technology, Majesco. There's a ton of case studies up, new ones for Power Platform, which are really cool. So you want to check those out too. The Fabric blog is always lit. There's always like 15 things that we could pull from for that as well. So definitely, if you haven't checked out the Fabric blog, Power BI, all that goodness you can. And of course, we have community events happening all summer long, which is super awesome. Part of our Microsoft Global Community Initiative. Thank you so much, Erin, for putting the slide up. Yeah, this is all the wonderful things that are coming up here. We've got Toronto. I'm keynoting and speaking in Chicago. Super excited to go back to my hometown. We've got events in Bellevue. Karuana is heading out to New York City late July. Colombo in Sri Lanka. We've got one in Monterey in Mexico. So we've got these community-led. These are all free events. These one day and a couple of 2-day free events. And then we also have our community events that are the paid events that are there coming up. We've got the Digital Workplace Conference in Australia, which is Debbie Ireland's awesome event that's coming up in Sydney at the end of July. Tech Bahanian, which is in the Philippines, which Drizzle from our MGCI is heading up with her wonderful group of volunteers for that amazing event. And then we've also got TechCon coming up in DC in August. So lots of stuff coming up. Communitydays.org is the place to look for all of these wonderful events. There's so many things going on. If you have an event coming up in 2024 and 2025, get it up there. I know folks are getting excited because they're like, okay, I need to pick a date. I need to pick a date, and so I'm getting a lot of those questions and people asking me, am I going to conflict with anything? I want to make sure and da-da-da-da. So thank you for doing that work. First of all, if you're planning an event and being thoughtful about that kind of stuff, it's awesome. I'm always happy to answer those questions. And truly everything that that I know or that we know is up on communitydays.org because we keep, having people go there for that one-stop shop deal. So, and a big shout out to Tom Daly and everybody who works on that for us from the community. Tom's an MVP who runs the New York, New Jersey user group and the actual event that Karuana is going to. So thank you everybody for working on MGCI, to our new regional leaders. We have 60 of them that just came on that we're going to do another announcement this week about them on LinkedIn now that we've got them all up and where their regions are from. And then all of our board members who help us with that too. And our MVPs. Oh yeah, newly minted MVPs. The first of every month, we get newly minted Microsoft MVPs. So a big welcome to those of you who are new. And then there's a big renewal that's happening for those who have been MVPs that's coming up here in the next
very
minute.
shortly. Very shortly.
Excited about that. So
I know everybody's on pins and needles out there. We appreciate all the work that we do. Well, this, I thought that I was going to have a little difficulty getting back into the swing of things after being off for a few days. But look at all the news that we shared. We're already at time. Thank you, Heather, for being my partner in this amazing show. Thank you, everyone, for your continued support. We hope you have a fantastic week. Come into the community, ask us questions on LinkedIn, look for the post over in our Community News Bureau, which you should be following, and we will see you again in 2 weeks in another episode of Mondays at Microsoft.
Yay.
Take care.